What's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Vanek. So many years we've seen Google working with other manufacturers to make their phones under the Nexus line. But this year, they're finally jumping in deep with their new phone, the Pixel. Inside and out, this is what Google wants their phone to look and feel. It comes in two different options, the Pixel, which is the regular one, and the Pixel XL, which is the bigger one. The main differences are the screen size, the display resolution, and the battery size. It starts at 32 gigabytes for $649 and goes all the way up to 128 gigabytes for $869. I've been using the Pixel XL for over a week, and I think that's enough time to give my final thoughts on the phone. So diving into the phone, the OS is simple and clean. This new Pixel launcher comes with these new live wallpapers, which looks hot. It also features rounded icons which are able to give quick actions, very similar to iOS. Google finally removed the app drawer icon. Instead, we swipe up from the dock to access all of the other apps, leaving an extra spot for an app in the dock. On the top, we got a tab to get quick access to Google Search. And swiping all the way to the right gets us into our familiar Google Now page, showing us information based on our usage. All of this under Android 7.1. One of the differences in this new version of Android is the new navigation buttons. The buttons are now solid white and give a cool animation when you tap the home button. But if you go even further beyond, by long pressing, Google Assistant will appear. Now the big attraction of Google Assistant is how conversational it is. So you can ask some follow-up questions from a certain topic. Restaurants near me.
I found a few places within 0.9 miles.
Set an alarm for 5 a.m.
Done. Your alarm's set for tomorrow at 5 a.m.
Remind me to do laundry at 3 a.m.
Okay, do you want to save this?
Yes.
Okay, reminder saved.
Remind me to remind myself.
When do you want to be reminded?
Tomorrow.
Okay, do you want to save this?
Yes.
Okay, reminder saved.
Let's try this. Remind me to remind myself 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 to remind. Where's the closest Walmart?
I found a few places within 7.9 miles.
Navigate me to the closest.
Alright, I fixed and repair Cherry Hill Walmart.
Who's the director of Metal Gear Solid?
Metal Gear Solid's director is Hideo Kojima.
What's his Twitter? Surfing through the phone is super smooth. It's what you would expect out of a pure Android smartphone. Opening up apps, switching between different apps, it does it responsively. Now, ever since 7.0, we were introduced with the split screen feature. You can activate that by long pressing on the most recent apps button, and the button will transform into two windows. You can also awaken it from the most recent app screen by just dragging an app to either side. It works both in portrait and landscape mode. It's great and all, but I just don't like how it works. I wish more apps were supported, and when you're in that mode, then tap on an unsupported app, it just fully opens that app, minimizing the previous app. It will say that an app is not supported, but I'd rather it to just not open the app when I'm in that mode. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be in split window mode. I think if Google put in more work in the split screen feature, I would actually spend more time with it, but for now, I rarely use it. The OS isn't perfect. You'll still get some app crashes and other little inconsistencies like with the volume control. For example, I would have my volume at about 20%, so it would be low, but if I were to just press the volume up button just one time, the volume sounds a lot louder than it should. Also, when I'm at around 80% of volume, then hit the volume up to max, the volume doesn't even sound like it's getting any louder. Yeah, I know I'm just nitpicking, but it's just weird to have that in a phone like this. Either way, the speaker quality is good, It's only one speaker at the bottom this time around, but it doesn't bother me too much since I'm getting some great sound at normal volume levels, and it also gets pretty loud. Now the phone has a Snapdragon 821 paired with a 4GB of RAM. RAM management is not the best, but it's an improvement. I find apps refreshing when I open it back up when I don't really need it to be. That's based on an app like Twitter opening back up after about 2 hours of it minimized and me doing other things. Now running a benchmark, the phone pretty much keeps up with the other latest Snapdragon devices. Now on to the display. The colors are vibrant, the blacks are deep. Personally, I think this is a better display than the Galaxy S7. The main difference is the level of saturation. The Pixel gives you a less saturated display and it's just a lot better to look at. But that's just my opinion. It's nice and bright and even great in the sunlight. Even though the Pixel has a lower resolution display at 1080p, the quality isn't too much of a difference since it has a smaller display. Viewing angles are okay for an AMOLED display. I still get that pink tint looking at it from a distance, but it's not as bad as a 6P. So the regular Pixel has a 2770 mAh battery and the XL has a 3450 mAh battery. Battery life on both should be the same since you get a lower resolution display on the regular Pixel. But with my Pixel XL, it's definitely better than last year's 6P. Standby time has gotten a lot better, and I've been getting about 4 hours of screen on time on average with medium to heavy usage, which consisted of browsing the web, scrolling through the social networks, and very short gameplay time. My way of charging may be different from others, but on most days, I would have to charge my phone in between the day. I would start off at full charge at around 8 AM, then at 6 PM I would put my phone in charge with about 50%. That way I would have some juice for the night, then at around 2 AM I'd meet with 50% again, and have it in charge for the morning. Now, if you spent some time on Android, you are familiar with those occasional battery drains. Well, using this phone will keep you in touch with that. This one day, after I pulled my phone out of full charge with the original charger at around 7 PM, I noticed my phone was getting warm and I wasn't even using it. Then 6 hours later, I noticed my battery life was already at 30% and draining fast. Also, my usage was very light during its time unplugged. This can be fixed with a software update, but it's still kind of annoying how I'm still experiencing this in a 2016 Google phone. It doesn't happen too often, but it's still inconvenient, especially when you decide to crash at your friend's place and forget your charger. But usually battery life is good to me, and it helps a lot when it charges super quick. It takes about 1 hour and 30 minutes to fully charge from 0%. Overall battery life though, I'd rate it at a B+. Now the feel in the hand reminds me of a combination of the iPhone 6s Plus and the Nexus 6P. The back is flat, and when you meet the edge, it slightly curves into the sides, which are also flat. Then it slants, which looks like chamfered edges, leading us to those subtle curved edges of the display. For me, this is the best built Android phone I've ever used. The flat back allows my fingers to sit evenly for my thumbs to be easier to manage as I type and navigate through the phone. The front bezels can throw some people off because of how huge they are, but I like it for 2 reasons. Since this is a big phone, those bezels give me something to hold on as I use the phone, and it makes for a nice bridge between my hand to the screen, so I won't fall into those accidental presses. And I guess another little reason is just for looks. I think the perfect way to elaborate is to just look at the Nexus 6. I know this design may seem boring for most, but if it means for better control all around the phone, then I am all in. Now it's hard to not give a weird look at the top glass panel on the back. It allows for better reception and data speeds. I don't notice any major differences from the other phones that I've used, but I guess it's still great to have. I think Google just wanted the phone to not look too much like the iPhone, but still keeping a similar form. Within the panel, that's where the fingerprint sensor is placed. It's very fast and accurate, but what's great is that you can use it to unlock your phone without lighting the display. It's not a button, but there is a feature that will allow you to bring the notification panel down and back up with a swipe. You can deactivate this under the move settings within the main settings. At first, I thought the glass panel was cool and unique, but ever since I slapped on a case hiding the glass, it made me realize how unattractive it could be. Now in the corner, we're greeted with the camera, which has no bump. Alright, so the camera, the main feature in a phone people look into nowadays. If you're that person, then there should be no hesitation in saying that this camera delivers. This camera is very similar to the last year's Nexus 6P, which you all know was the best smartphone camera of 2015 for me. Now on the Pixel, the camera reminds me a lot of the 6P, just amplified. The rear camera is 12 megapixel with an f2.0 aperture lens with phase detection and laser autofocus, and it has a dual LED flash. Pictures come out to look amazing, colors pop, it gets detailed even in most low light conditions. It's a little big in saturation, but in many cases it does a good job without being too excessive. The software is very simplistic with no pro mode, but either way, autofocus is very fast as well as snapping the pictures. Recording in 4K doesn't perform short either. Even though it still doesn't rely on OIS, it uses electronic image stabilization, which performs really good compared to those cameras that actually feature OIS. And of course, that front-facing 8 megapixel camera, images appear to be a little on the dark side, and I noticed the dynamic range allows images to not become overexposed. Overall, the image quality comes all down to preference. The camera relies a lot more on processing, so it can look a bit unnatural. So what's also great about the camera system is that it's packed in both the Pixel and the Pixel XL, so you don't miss out on what the camera has to offer if you want to take it to the smaller phone. If you own the Nexus 6P, you already know what you're getting into with this Pixel. The only difference I can say is based on its predecessor, it's an improvement in every way. You get a quality display, a solid build with premium buttons, one of the best smartphone cameras, and this time, the phone is made by Google, allowing the hardware and the software to work together to perform more stable than before. Anyways, that's gonna do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, comment down below. Let me know what you think about the video, and make sure you're subscribed for the latest. Later.